Nothing clever to say, just a place to say it. The Walt Bonetti radio program on WGSO 990 AM.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for spending part of your Tuesday with us. We are speaking with noted author and newspaper reporter Tyler Bridges about his republished book. Originally, it was called The Rise of David Duke, and Tyler has added 4 new chapters to it to chronicle David Duke's life and influence since he published that book in 1994. The new book is called The Rise and Fall of David Duke. It's available on Amazon.com. Your phone calls are welcome, 504-556-9696, 504-556-9696. One of the things I didn't know, Tyler, is that before he ran for elections in Louisiana, David Duke tried to run for president and vice president as a Democrat back in 1988. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, Duke, like most people and most voters in Louisiana, was a Democrat. And he's always had big political ambitions. As he said, he did run for president. He got as a third-party candidate in 1988, got very few votes. And it looked like at that point, while his political ambition and career was over, he had left the Klan back in 1980, and in the 1980s, no one paid attention to him anymore because he was no longer in the Klan. And then that presidential bid in 1988 didn't get him any attention. And then Chuck Cusimano resigned from the State House, District 81 in Metairie, and that opened up the seat. And Duke changed parties, became a Republican, and began talking about issues that really connected with the white voters in that district. And February of 1989, he won that race over John Treen by 227 votes and took a seat in the Louisiana House of Representatives.
Yeah, that was. But before I came to Jefferson Parish, but certainly a black eye on the state, and I was not aware of Duke having any influence on Charlottesville other than the fact that the neo-Nazis, some of them worship him. But talk to us about that and how he was involved with Charlottesville and continuing racial unrest in our country.
Sure. Duke has, throughout his career, is been very, very clever in getting attention to himself and drawing attention to hot button issues. And so the extreme right, the racist right, organized this event in Charlottesville last year. And of course, Duke wanted to be there. He was not the organizer, but he's probably, he's certainly the most famous racist in the country. And so he was one of the people there. And as I tell in The Rise and Fall of David Duke, the main place they were going to hold a rally by statue in a park in downtown Charlottesville, they were forced out of there. So Duke ended up going with some of the other extreme right leaders to another park, and there is video of him giving a talk. Walt, back in the day, 1989, when he was elected to the State House, 1990, when he ran for the Senate and got 55% of the white vote, including carrying Jefferson Parish over Bennett Johnston, and in that 1991 governor's race, Duke, in those days, hid his true passion, which is his concern about Jews. That had marked his career for many, many years. Is really his true passion was talking about how Jews were ruining this country, and much more concerned with Jews than blacks. But in 1989, 90, 91, during his political heyday, he stopped talking about that because he realized it was not a winning issue. But then back in the mid-1990s, after his political career had fallen, he began openly again being an anti-Semite, and he continued to talk about that ever since, including at that event in Charlottesville a year ago.
And then a year before, in 2016, campaigning for U.S. Senate when David Vitter left office, and he still had 5%, over 5% of the vote. I remember in some polls, he was still had 5%. That's mind-boggling to me. That people would still be gravitating to David Duke in this day and age.
Yeah, well, he actually ended up getting about 3%. And the reason I call the new book The Rise and Fall of David Duke is because in that Senate race in 2016, as I tell the story in the book, he did very little campaigning. He went to gun shows. He raised very little money. Back in 1990 and 91, he was touring the state. He was getting huge crowds. He really, really struck a nerve back in 1990 and 91. But by 2016, he was a figure who no longer could attract really support of anybody except on the extreme right, and still ability to manipulate the media and generate big headlines as he did in 2016 and then 2017. And there's been all sorts of coverage about the actor who portrays Duke in the new Spike Lee movie, Black Klansman. But again, these are some of the stories that I tell in The Rise and Fall of David Duke.
And he got like 58,000 votes when he ran for Senate in 2016. And I think he came in 7th or 8th place. I mean, way down there, but certainly going from 600,000 plus votes statewide and then having 2 million votes cast and getting about 55,000 votes. That is a pretty dramatic fall.
Yes. Yeah. And he can no longer go to Slidell, go to Bossier, go to Monroe, go to Lafayette and draw big crowds as he did in 1990 and 1991 during his political heyday.
Well, let's. I have not had a chance to read your book yet because it just came out again. I read it a long time back, the original book, the Rise of David Duke. But I'm looking forward to reading the 4 new chapters that you put in there, and getting your takes. But let's talk about your other books, Bad Bet on the Bayou, about the rise of gambling and the fall of Edwin Edwards. Tell us a little bit about that.
That book, Walt, came out of my work from when I was with the Times-Picayune covering the legalization of gambling in the 1990s. And then Governor Edwards went on trial and went to prison. So the Bad Bet on the Bayou tells that story. It's not a book that Edwin Edwards likes, and I know this because he's told me to my face, although he and I now have developed cordial relations. But it traces the arc of history of gambling, really, which is this amazing history of throughout the state. The game of craps was invented here. There was a huge scandal, the national scandal that took place in Louisiana in the late 1800s, and then your older listeners will remember the illegal casinos that existed in the 1950s and even 1960s. And then again, the legalization of gambling. And so, and then I had a chance this past summer to write about gambling again, covering the legislative session for The Advocate and Harris' efforts to win the extension of a state operating license. So it was kind of back to the future for me in writing about those gambling issues again. And then the more recent book after that book came out in 2002, 2001, Bad Bet on the Bayou. And then in 2016 with Jeremy Alford, a terrific journalist in Baton Rouge, we published Long Shot, a soldier, a senator, a serious in an epic Louisiana election. And Long Shot is the behind-the-scenes account of how John Bel Edwards knocked off the heavy favorite David Vitter. And that book is available online. LouisianaLongshot.com is our website. LouisianaLongshot.com or on Amazon. And then again, the new book, The Rise and Fall of David Duke, is available only on Amazon.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really looking forward to reading the 4 new chapters. I read Bad Bet on the Bayou. Did not read Long Shot, but definitely want to check that out as well. And like I said, we're talking with Tyler Bridges, The Rise and Fall of David Duke, republished last week, available on Amazon.com. 4 new chapters. Make sure you check it out. Tyler, we appreciate your time, and good luck with the book. Hopefully it does well.
Thanks. And just to let you know that you're in Kenner, so I'm going to have some stories coming out of the Advocate sometime within the next 10 days about the new move to the North Terminal at the airport. That's going to be a big issue for the city of Kenner and, in fact, the whole entire region as the airport shifts from the south side near Airline Highway to closer to I-10. Again, a whole new North Terminal, a decision made by Mitch Landrieu and the Aviation Board back in April of 2013.
Well, we will look forward to that. Hopefully we can have you on again. We're going to take a quick break for the news. When we come back, we will continue with the Walt Benetti radio program on WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com, and the TuneIn Radio app.